RGA was founded in 1977 by two brothers, and they were pioneers of an industry which was feature film visual effects. And over the years, it's morphed into a lot of other businesses and emerged as one of the leaders in the digital agency space, I guess, for lack of a better description. But we've expanded way beyond that, and we're focused today on what I talked about in the presentation, which was this idea of transformation at speed. And so what we offer is this integrated set of solutions that help clients with business problems, with how to create new products and services, and how to build modern brands. And so we compete in a lot of different industries against more traditional competitors in things like consulting, in the design and development of technology, and in marketing communications. The two I talked about were the fact that a lot of our clients, particularly the ones that were born before the digital revolution, are experiencing this disruption in their business, and many of them are on the record saying that our business is being disrupted and we need to figure out how to make big changes. And I think what most of them mean is that they're looking to innovate in ways, not just in their advertising, they're actually trying to innovate the business. They're trying to invent new products, new services, new experiences for their customers. And so that's one trend. And the other trend that we see is how to build modern brands at a time when consumers are finding more and more ways to not spend time in media that's ad-supported. And so how do you create these connections nowadays? And particularly this is most challenging with young consumers. Young consumers are the ones that seem to be spending the least amount of time in more traditional media where it was very easy to build brands through things like TV commercials or print ads. How do you build modern brands when we don't have access to these same consumers because they're not consuming media in the same way? Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big believer in any of that stuff. My whole talk was about how creativity needs to transcend storytelling. I think there's a lot of purpose-driven marketing. We've seen this in the award shows like Cannes and whatnot. I'm not sure how much of that actually helps sell product in the end, so I think there's a big challenge with that. But I also think that the idea of viral content has expired. I don't know about it in India, I don't know the market as well, but in the US, what was driving viral content was social media and the idea that somebody could post a video and then other people would share, and most of the platforms block that. So the idea that a brand can go viral nowadays is almost impossible without paying media fees to the publishers like Facebook or companies like that. So that was an opportunity maybe 5 years ago, but it's not as much of an opportunity today. Yeah, I don't believe that content creation is the be-all and end-all of our industry and is the most important problem that we can solve for clients. The work that I shared today was examples of 3 different companies that had either business problems or opportunities that could not be solved with a piece of quote-unquote content. And when I say content, I mean like a film. When I looked at Gordon Bowen's work this morning of some of the most beautiful advertising that the industry is capable of, these were, I think, examples of clients that even if we had made a really beautiful piece of advertising like that, we would not have been able to connect with the audience and solve the marketing problem or the business problem that these particular clients were experiencing. And so my whole talk was about the idea that we need to expand the creative aperture beyond storytelling to look at what we call business transformation, which is really rooted in the invention of entirely new businesses. It's driven by innovation, by what we call experience transformation, which is rooted in design and development of new technology, and by marketing transformation, which was how we create engagement and sharing in a modern way. I think one thing that the social media revolution has given brands access to is what we might call cultural data. It is reflective of what people are saying about a category or a particular brand or a company, or at maybe a higher level about, if you're a beauty brand, you can trace the sentiment of what people are talking about your brand, your category, or maybe even something at a higher level like beauty overall. And through this lens, you can get insight to a lot of data that was simply not available to marketers historically. And so it's an artifact of the digital revolution and the social media revolution that this new form of data has emerged. I think the history of the digital agency business was companies starting up, getting a bit of traction in the market, a little bit of growth. Some of them went public back in the dot-com era, and then almost all of them were acquired by the major advertising holding companies over the last 20 years. There's very few independent agencies left, at least in the markets that I have familiarity with, like Western Europe and US and other parts of Asia where RGA has offices. And so I'm not sure what's left to buy, quite honestly. I do see a trend towards companies trying to create more expansive capabilities, whether it's consulting companies buying creative shops or whether it's holding companies buying into entirely new capabilities. My parent company is Interpublic Group, and last year they made one of their largest acquisitions ever, which was of Acxiom, very massive data company. And so this is an example of a holding company trying to expand its capabilities beyond what it had at the time. And so I think that this might be the new trend of acquisition, is to create more expansiveness, to create more broader capabilities that are more responsive to a marketplace where the needs of clients are much broader than they were in the past. The thing about digital is that it's a purely contextual medium. When we think about traditional media, it's not very contextual because the context in which all the media is seen in traditional media is through the context of interruption. So you're watching a TV show and then an ad shows and you get interrupted from the program that you were watching. In digital, it's more contextual. You might be, out on your phone trying to complete some kind of a task and some digital thing comes along that helps you solve it. You might be in social media, as an example. Some of the examples that I shared were at a live event and an experience was made available to you. Again, that's contextual. Or that you're somebody who's an avid gamer and you're following the most famous influencer in that particular category, and you see that particular gamer demonstrating a new thing that you didn't know about. And so it's all tied into the context of the moment. And that's what makes digital, that's what's made it always different from more traditional media. And it's, I think, the one thing that a lot of agencies and creatives have never figured out how to embrace, is how to think about the world in a more contextual manner and how to use contextual moments to be the spark of creativity. Of the work that RGA's done, the one that's been my favorite of late is the third campaign that I shared, which was called Galaxy Skin. Because I think what we did with that is we took a category where the growth has slowed. Consumers are not finding the same reasons nowadays to replace their phone every year. The phones are just too good, and so we were holding on to them longer. And so I think this was an example of both strategically and creatively figuring out how to convince a different audience, which was gamers, of the need to go out and buy a phone so that they could play a game, not so that they could have like a new phone. And that to me is like an example of like a different level of creativity that I hadn't seen recently. Only what I see like every year when I go to the big advertising festivals like Cannes. And I know that India has always been a very famous hotbed of creativity, and it's one of the places where some of the greatest advertising comes from and wins a lot of awards at these big festivals. I haven't paid as much attention to it because I think India has been a laggard as it relates to innovation.